department coordination through a crisis communication system. In this webinar, our presenters will discuss and examine why Northwest Central Dispatch System needed a system, their internal and organizational needs, keeping employees trained and proficient with the notification system, how Northwest Dispatch reaches its citizens. We'll go through a few use cases, and we'll conclude with a Q&A session. The Q&A session will be approximately 15 minutes with both of our speakers. As a reminder, you can submit your questions at any time during the webinar. You may send your questions by typing in the open text field in the questions panel and sending your questions to all panelists. If time should run out before your question is answered, we will follow up after the webinar as best as we can. Links to the recording of the webinar and slides from today's presentation will be available on our blog within a few days of the session. You can also look for a link to the recordings and all webinars on everbridge.com under the resources section. If you're on Twitter, we encourage you to take a moment to follow us at Everbridge and use the hashtags, #Everbridge and #CrisisCom, to share snippets of insight throughout the program with your followers. We'll even retweet some of your comments. And now I'd like to introduce you to our speakers. First, we have Cindy Barbera-Borelli. She is the Executive Director of the Northwest Central Dispatch System, an intergovernmental cooperative that answers 911 calls and dispatches police, fire, EMS for 21 police and fire departments representing 11 communities located in northwest suburban Chicago. Northwest Central Dispatch System celebrated its 42nd year this past August. The system employs 17 management and technical staff, 69 telecommunicators. As the executive director, Cindy is responsible for all of this. She's responsible for the center and all the systems that support the operation, which includes radios and microwave systems and computer-aided dispatch and mobile data centers. She reports to the board of directors and the executive committee, whose members are the police and fire chiefs, and interact with the police and fire liaison committees. To my dismay, though, as a huge Bruins fan, Cindy is unfortunately a Blackhawks fan, and a very big one. During the Q&A, Cindy will be joined by Sue Cooper. Sue Cooper is an operations manager at Northwest Central Dispatch. She currently oversees the operation of 23 employees assigned to the day shift. The center is the communications hub for notifying regional and statewide law enforcement, fire service, and communication resources. Sue has over 26 years of experience, and one of her many responsibilities is being the Everbridge coordinator for Northwest Central Dispatch member communities. And now I'd like to turn it over to Cindy, our first presenter. You may begin, Cindy.
Dispatch has been around since 1972. You can see from the slide I have up the coverage area, which is about 126 square miles, representing the 11 communities and the 21 police and fire departments. Intergovernmental cooperatives such as we are allows the communities to create another entity to provide a service, and though we don't have taxing authority, we derive our income or revenue, our operating expense coverage from the communities that are member participants. Population that we serve is a little bit over 486,000, so not quite half a million in the 11 communities. And it's a diverse population. We have communities that are strictly residential. We have other communities that have, corporate or commercial interests in town. We, at one point, had one of the largest industrial parks in the world in the community Elk Grove Village. We have Woodfield Mall, if you're into shopping, is one of the big malls in the Schaumburg area. And as I said, a lot of corporate. Motorola, as an example, is in one of our communities. Their corporate headquarters is. Just to give you a sense of the activity for the 11 police departments and 10 fire departments that we dispatch for, we answer 326,000 emergency calls a year. That's a combination of 911 and we still maintain a 10-digit emergency number. For police, we dispatch about 188,000 calls, and we dispatch 58,000 fire and EMS calls each year. So you might ask, why do we need a mass notification system? We really felt that, and we have been affiliated or used Everbridge as our mass notification provider for 9 years. We have a long relationship with them. We really felt that there was a need to have a way to expeditiously notify the residents that we serve when there was a need, be it emergent or be it really more of a public service announcement. The incident that really motivated my board of directors, which is the village managers of each of the communities that we serve, was one of the communities needed to do a boil order. Back then, 9 years ago, they had really limited ways of quickly notifying the residents. Yes, they could pick up the phone and call them, or oftentimes what they did in this case, in squad cars, they had police officers driving up and down the street using their PAs on the cars to make announcements, and in some cases they even went door to door. This next slide shows you in the orange area the amount of coverage or residents really within this footprint that had to be notified. So you can imagine what a daunting task this was to try and hit every resident in a town of a little bit over 40,000 and this footprint that you're seeing. So that came back to the board of directors, and they essentially said we need to find a way that we can collectively benefit from having a system that we can quickly notify residents regardless of whatever the need would be. And we did really a nationwide search for providers. Now back then, 9 years ago, there weren't as many providers in the marketplace as there are today, but we had settled on Everbridge. We liked what Everbridge was offering. We liked the direction that they were taking, and we continue to like that direction, particularly upgrading to their mass notification platform from Aware this past summer. That was an easy transition for us, and we definitely like and benefit from the change of going from one to the other because it's just a lot easier to use. It's a lot easier to train up our staff and department staff, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. As I said, since 2009 we've used the system. You can see from this footprint, that's really the whole coverage area. It actually looks like less than I originally showed you, but 126 square miles of residential footprint for the 11 communities that we're providing service to. Now, the way we structure the way we've structured Everbridge, we have a residential organization, and then we have member organizations. So not only does Northwest Central have its own org, each of the 11 communities has an organization that they can manage to contact their employees regardless of what the need may be. As the residential org, we use a couple of different methods to populate that database. Primarily the 911 database is probably the largest database we use. We purchase data from our provider is ATT, and we also get data from our two cellular company, I should say our two cable companies, WOW and Comcast, that, as people are getting the triple play packages, if you will, they've migrated from AT&T to Comcast or WOW for phone service. So we buy that data also so we can populate the database. The problem long-term becomes as people continue to move away from landlines, it's a lot harder to get that mobile telephone information, that cellular telephone information in the database. That's where the community outreach comes in. We do a number of classes, citizens police academies, fire academies, and a lot of public education opportunities. We use those opportunities to, trumpet the value of opting into Everbridge. And then the opt-in portal, like I said, we encourage our communities to put information in their newsletters, and any way or any opportunities they have where they have citizens in a group to pass the information on that, that Everbridge is available and opting is important, and then they can have control over how they're notified. Of course, the system really can be used the use of the system is only limited by your imagination. So as I mentioned earlier, the boil order is really what moved us in this direction, but we could use it to notify residents of a fire in an immediate area to kind of keep them away for traffic control purposes. If we had a hazardous material incident, we have a number of railroad tracks running through the communities. If we had a derailment that caused a hazmat incident, we'd certainly want to get notifications out for that purpose. And we can certainly use it for other public service situations, such as a community update. We had a lot of snow last winter, as an example, and communities had to delay, trash pickups, and that was a way they used to notify citizens as Everbridge to say, hey, your pickup day's been changed from Tuesday to Wednesday, or whatever the case may be. So, the plows weren't fighting with garbage cans as they were trying to clear streets. This kind of gives you an example at the bottom of this slide of what the notification details look like. In this case, you can see that 19 contacts were made with this particular notification. And on the right-hand side of the slide, you see the message itself. The nice part about Everbridge is you can always go back at any time to see a notification that you've generated and get the statistical or demographic information about the notification. Here's a couple of more examples where we talk about anywhere from Elk Grove was having a parade and they wanted to let residents know about the timing. Or we had a disturbance in Arlington Heights where we're asking residents to shelter in place. So we used the geographic notification capabilities of mass notification to narrow down who was contacted. Or we had a missing juvenile a couple of months back where we really went to an Amber Alert and then also used Everbridge to send notifications out. And we did find the child. When we talk about the organization, each community then has a designated system administrator. That's really their go-to contact person. Our objective is really to have each community system administrator really take the lead and really keep their staff or their designated staff up to date with Everbridge so that when they have to make a public service notification, they can do that themselves in-house. Or they can use it to make employee notifications. Always the case is that if there's an emergent situation, my staff at the dispatch center and Sue is responsible for training that staff. They are pretty much close to being Everbridge experts where they can generate and prepare a geo notification and they can make the notification themselves. We don't ask the departments to really make those notifications when it's emergent. We have the better skill set or the more practiced skill set, and it makes sense for us to do it because it really goes out more timely. We encourage the system administrators to take advantage of Everbridge University curriculum and to keep on top of the courses that are available to them. We have found them, and Sue and I have gone through them. We find them to be very interesting and straightforward, and there's always something you can learn. And it's always a nice resource to go back to that if you're thinking, wow, how do I do this or that? And inevitably, there is a course that you can take that's, very compact and really provides you with the information to get through a particular situation or a configuration. We've also created an Outlook distribution group for the system administrators so that if we need to notify them of maintenance that may be occurring on the system that may impact us, or if we want to, just provide them some training opportunities, we use that as a method of quickly notifying them. One of the things that we do is really an annual refresh where we ask the system administrators to come back into the center, and then we spend time, just kind of really doing an overview of the system and then really answering any questions that they may have. We also tend to, if there is a notification, because inevitably there's no, I don't want to say that no notification goes smoothly, but there's always questions or better ways or improvement from notification, one notification to the next. So we always will help them with a post-op, if you will, looking for suggestions for them to improve the notification experience they had from one to the next. I talked about the annual refresher training and really encouraging them to do university training. So again, I think that's really helpful. I think the more, this is a system like any system, the more that you use it, the more comfortable you are with, with the product and how it works. Each community manages their own employee organization. We're available to provide technical support as they set that up. And if necessary, then we engage Everbridge if we've run into something that we just don't have the skill set or familiarity, and we always get excellent help from technical support to help us over the hump. Here's a situation in Schaumburg where they created individual contract groups to support their organization. So they have an all-village employee group, so they could notify the 400 or 500 employees they have with one notification. Okay, the village is going to be closed because of weather, that can go out. Or they've also created a subgroup. So under the village employee group, they've created individual department groups such as community development, public works, police department, fire department, and they have about 10 or 12 subgroups that they use. In each case, even within the department, the police department can create a subgroup, based on a function as an example. So maybe they have a canine group, or their investigators are a group, or their juvenile officers could be a group. Then they can pinpoint the notifications, particularly depending on what the situation is. This kind of gives you an example of, kind of the pinpointing, if you will, of resources so we get the right people. You can see we can use any number of media, from even using Everbridge via our cell phones to make notifications, but you can kind of see from, again, the orange circular area that we've kind of pinpointed that area to get resources to respond. This kind of breaks down Schaumburg's subgroups, as I said. So you can see highlighted here all village employees and then the breakdown. And then if we look at the EOC, or cultural services, really, they've broken it down even further. So if I just needed fire investigator 1, I have an ability to just get those resources. Or I can select multiple groups as I'm making notifications, depending on what the need is. Here's a couple of examples of department use. Now, we use the system for our employees as well for overtime notifications. So as we're looking to fill our minimums on a shift because of sick call-outs or whatever the situation may be, we have the opportunity to use this ourselves to notify off-duty staff for overtime opportunities. You can see in the very first notification here, this is one of the fire departments using it for a hire back. We use it to remind people of the monthly testing, and so and so on and so forth. So there's a couple examples here. Really, again, it's limited only by your imagination. We also take the time to, on standard callouts, we create predefined messages so that we don't have to compose every time we're looking to cover the 1,900 to 2,300 hour shift, if you will, on a particular day. We can just call up that predefined message and change the specifics, if you will, and then off it goes.
All right. Thank you very much, Cindy. At this point, we're going to open up to questions from our audience. And I'd like to let everyone know that we did select some questions from the registration portal, so we will go through a couple of those. The first one is going to be for Cindy and Sue. How do you use your system to plan for events in advance?
I think we identified early on that there are situations that the departments can use yearly. For example, we have a bike race that comes through the village of Elk Grove. They want to notify the residents in the area of the race, certain things about parking restrictions or what's going to be happening. So we've already identified that area. We save it in the system, so year after year we can just go back to that template and make any changes that we need to do it. We also have a parade route map that we have stored in the system. So right before the 4th of July parade, we can notify all those residents in the same area that it's going to be happening. So if you have new members that are moving into the community and aren't aware of it, they'll be notified. One of our communities uses it a lot for their garbage day change. They actually identified the specific areas in the village of different garbage days. So if it's going to be delayed due to a holiday or weather, that they can just pinpoint their geographical location and have that all set and ready to go.
Awesome. Thank you, Sue. So the next question that came from the registration portal, during an emergency where multiple departments are involved, how are you able to communicate amongst one another and make sure everyone got the message?
I think one of the great changes that Everbridge did with mass notification was the ability to send a message to a group as well as a geographical location. In the old system, you could only do a geographical location. We've developed what we call our FYI groups. So if we're sending out a notification in the village of Arlington Heights by geography, we could also send that to a specific group that wants to be notified. For example, the mayor may not be in the coverage area that we're sending the message to, but he may want to know what message is going out. The police chief, fire chief, all those officials can be notified anytime the system is being used, so that when they come into the office the next day, they're not surprised that it went out. We also have the ability to make the message be confirmation or not confirmation, so that we know that the message got to them and that they're aware of what's going on.
Awesome. Thank you. Next question. What type of information do you try to get from citizens to make sure they are notified for an emergency, especially if the emergency is only affecting a specific location?
You know, I think one of the biggest things that you really need to do with your system is make sure your opt-in data is out there. I think everyone is switching over to cell phones, and the inability to get wireless information freely and easily is a big problem. So to make sure any kind of contact you have with new residents moving in to your communities or business licenses or however you can get them to provide the information to opt-in is really important. It always happens that we get calls after a notification went out because one neighbor got the message, the one next door didn't. And then we identified that half the apartment complex are wireless users. So most of the people didn't get the message. That's when they go in and actually opt in. So if you can put out as much public notice that you have the system available, make it easy for them to opt in, then you get the data that you need.
So we actually had a similar question regarding this from the comment section. What specific things does Northwest Central Dispatch do in order to get that type of information? For example, are you using community outreach, or are you guys physically going door to door?
Well, we've provided a disc of different things that each village can do on their own. They can pick and choose from the list. We have inserts for a water bill that they can stick in. They also have the option of putting it on their website. We do have community outreach, so any open house that we go to, we can have the information on how to opt in. But we really think it's important for the village itself when you have people coming in to register for their water bills, or if you have village stickers, to include that in the package for the village to get that information into the system.
Thank you. And Sue, are you able to see who got your messages, how they got them, and through what method? So I think that's all, pretty much 3 questions there, but you can answer one by one.
Using the mass notification system, there's a great reporting feature that you can build your own report. So really you can tell it exactly what you want to know. It'll print it out for you. You can include when they confirmed, how they confirmed. You can see all of that information right through mass notification.
Excellent. So we had just finished the questions from the registration portal. What we're going to do now is answer a few questions from the audience. As a reminder to the audience, you may submit your questions by typing your question in the open text field in the questions panel and submitting it to all panelists. and we'll try and get through, looks like we have a couple of them, so we'll try and get through them as quickly as possible. So the first question that we have from the audience, Sue, is do you ever use your system to practice emergency drills or training drills?
We haven't gotten to that point yet. That is something that we'd like to do. I think it's really important for your residents to know that the system's out there and be available, but you also don't want to take advantage of it where they get bored and hang up. So it's kind of an iffy route to go. You really have to decide how you're going to use it. Obviously, you want them to listen when you have an emergency. You don't want them just to hang up saying, oh, this is another call from the village. If you have children in elementary school, you'll know that most schools across the nation will send messages out all the time to parents. And I think you get away from the need or the emergency aspect of it. So it's a fine line. We haven't actually used it yet. But.
And the next question is, are you guys able to access the system mobilely? And if so, what devices are you able to reach when you're using it from that means?
Well, all you need is internet access. So you can do it from iPad or smartphone or anywhere, and you just log into the system. We have some agencies who, for example, kind of a SWAT team who uses it, and their team leaders can send messages right from the field to their team members from their phones.
Great. Another question, this is actually a follow-up to that one. If you are able to use the tool in the field, are you able to work with staff call-outs and schedule people if there are such events?
Sure. You can send any kind of message from the field by using any one of those devices. And you could also include the need for confirmation, or you can do a polling message. For example, if there's an event where you need 5 or 6 people to respond, you can put a polling message in and see who's available, and then you can just notify those people. You could do a quota where you enter 5, and as soon as those 5 people acknowledge that they can respond, the message stops going out. So there's several variations with the system that you can use.
Great. So we have one final question, Sue. How do you notify your specialty teams? And they specifically mentioned, for example, hazmat, search and rescue, police special tactics, SWAT.
The departments can set up their special teams any way that they want. So the fire department for one of our agencies may enter just paramedics. They may enter just divers, just hazmat members. And those would be groups in the system. And you can enter as many groups as you want. You can break it down as far as you want. It's just up to the agency. You can really just do just about anything you need.
Great. So I'm very sorry to announce that it looks like we went through all the questions. If anyone has any follow-up questions, feel free to send them to marketing@everbridge.com. I'd like to thank Cindy and Sue for a great session today, and to all of you attendees who were able to join us. If you missed any part of the webinar, be sure to look for the slides on everbridge.com/blog. You will also receive an email with a link to the recording in the coming days. If you haven't already, please take a moment to follow us on Twitter @Everbridge and join our group on LinkedIn, Everbridge Incident Management and Emergency Notification Professionals. For those of you interested in requesting a demo of the new Everbridge system, please visit everbridge.com/request-demo. Thank you all again for your participation in today's Expert Insights webinar, Department Coordination through a Crisis Communication System. We hope to see you all online again. Have a great day. Thank you.